At the end of May in 1999, the San Antonio Spurs were playing in the Western Conference Finals against the Portland Trail Blazers, a young athletic group of upstarts who had more than enough swag to believe that they were about to be another roadblock to the Spurs reaching the promised land. It feels like forever ago, but even deep into that magical playoff run, despite being loaded with future Hall of Famers, including two of the greatest players of all time, Spurs fans were anything but confident that this would finally be the year. It was more of a nervous optimism. The pieces were in place and everything was looking up, but the Silver and Black were still searching for that magical moment, one surefire sign that a championship would finally make its way to the Alamo City. On Memorial Day, that moment finally came. So let's celebrate the 20th anniversary of the play that changed everything. This is the Memorial Day Miracle. Monday, May 31st, 1999. A hot day in San Antonio, with the city absolutely buzzing after the Spurs entered Game 2 of the 1999 NBA Western Conference Finals, up 1-0 and riding a 7-game winning streak after dispatching of the Minnesota Timberwolves in 4 games in the opening round, best of 5 back then sweeping the Shaq and Kobe Lakers after that. The Spurs felt like a team of destiny. A young Tim Duncan was blossoming into the best player in the league. The slow 6-8 start was long forgotten by the time the strike-shortened regular season ended, as the Spurs went into the playoffs having won 31 of their final 36 games and then dominating the first 2 rounds. But there were still 2 rounds and plenty of games left for everything to go wrong. They could still come crashing back to earth, like every other promising Spurs team had done before. This happened to the 94-95 Spurs, who went into the playoffs with the number 1 seed, home court advantage throughout, and MVP David Robinson carrying them there. Despite playing no higher than a 5 seed in that year's playoff run, the Silver and Black got dropped by an otherworldly performance from Hakeem Olajuwon in the Western Conference Finals. While we know the Spurs today as a dynasty carrying legends and Hall of Famers with no shortage of big shots to remember them by, going into that fateful Memorial Day at the Alamo Dome, Spurs fans had no signature moment to look back on. They were defined by great players coming up short. But Game 2 set the stage for all of that to change. And it started with a big deficit. It was 52-34 in the third quarter. Down 18, the Spurs had shown no signs that they were going to make a go of it. Over the next several minutes, they went on a 17-2 run to make it 54-51, but they didn't get any closer than that. Portland went back to work, and by the time the final 2 minutes came around, they were back up by 8. 2 things are forgotten about what led up to this moment. Forgotten because the shot took on such a big life of its own that so many people have forgotten what actually happened in that game that led up to it besides the big comeback. 1. Portland should have won this game for a number of reasons, but they gave the Spurs extra chances because of their mismanagement of the clock. On several possessions in the final 2 minutes, rather than milk the clock, they took early shots. Some of them went down, heck, even some of the misses turned into offensive rebounds that gave them extra possessions to drain the clock more. But they gave this one away because of how poorly the clock was managed. And 2, I forgot that the Memorial Day Miracle was set up not by a defensive stop, but by a missed free throw. The Spurs cut the lead to 1 with 33 seconds left on 2 Mario Elie free throws. The Blazers missed their shot on the ensuing possession but got the rebound, and the Spurs had to foul to stop the clock and get another possession. Damon Stoudemire went to the free throw line for his first attempts of the game, missed the first one, and then made the second one. So let's take a look at the game winner. The Spurs have the flexibility of not needing a 3, so they can justify having Tim and David out there. Steve Kerr comes into the game, but his moment wouldn't come until 4 years later. Here's an underrated rule change that used to plague the NBA.
Delay of game.
The delay of game that every team would take on big possessions late to have a sneak peek at the play. The NBA has changed this so that it's a technical foul rather than a warning if it happens in the final 2 minutes. But this used to happen all the time, and I'm so glad it's gone. And here's the shot.
Into Sean Elliott. He fires the 3 and hits it!
Stacey Augmon actually does a great job of getting in Sean Elliott's way so that he can't make a clean catch and shoot. Then Rasheed Wallace is right there to help as a backup defender, but Elliott launches the shot so high that it doesn't matter. It splashes right down anyway. Look at this replay. I'm not sure that a young Sheed ever jumped higher in his career than he did trying to block this shot. It gives you even more appreciation for how tough it was for this to go down. And Doug Collins, an all-time underrated basketball broadcaster, does an excellent job of pointing out Sean Elliott's footwork. There should be a historical marker on that spot in the Alamo Dome.
Bob, I thought he was going to step out of bounds. Look at his feet here. It looks like he's falling out of bounds. And he gathers himself. His heels actually are out of bounds, but they don't touch the line because they're off the ground. His toes are in bounds. His heels are out of bounds, but they don't touch.
And there's the face that Damon Stoudemire gets remembered for. The one Spurs fans always see when they think of the reaction by the opposing team of the first great shot in Spurs history. The Spurs made one more stop. Well, two more stops, as the Blazers were able to grab one more offensive rebound in their final possession because, of course they did, to seal the game. The Spurs had their moment, and it was one that the Blazers wouldn't be able to recover from. San Antonio swept the series for their first ever trip to the NBA Finals, where they'd finally bring a title to the Alamo City and begin a dynasty that continues to this day. And while you can look back and try to figure out what really started this title run, whether it be winning the lottery for David Robinson, drafting Tim Duncan, Greg Popovich taking over as their head coach, it really began in earnest when Sean Elliott hit that shot. The Spurs had never had a shot like that go for them in their long history. There had never been a catalyst that vaulted them to a title, no sign that they were a team of destiny. 20 years ago, on Memorial Day, they finally got one. A true miracle, and they've never looked back since.
Ellie to Sean Elliott. Fires a off-balance three. Bang! Sean Elliott, an off-balance three is good, and the Spurs lead by one.
For 7 Ages Media, I'm Javi Pettis.